Going on, everybody? In this video, I want to go over a beginner PDR fighter build. This will be basically based on your basic squire gear, and we'll go over the perks and skills first. So for your perks, you'll want to take Swift. This reduces the armor movement speed penalty by 30%. This will be good because we're going to be very, very slow. We'll take Defense Mastery, gain an additional 15% armor rating bonus from your armor. The maximum physical damage reduction in your PDR is increased to 75%. So the most damage reduction you can get is 75%. I'll go over the totals for this build later on, but just in Squire gear, it's between like, I don't know, 53 and 60 something percent. So it's pretty good. Just for Squire gear, you're almost maxed. The next perk is projectile resistance, gain 10% projectile damage reduction, and then while you're in defensive stance, gain additional 25% projectile damage reduction. So if you run up against like a ranger or something, if you're holding block with your shield or your weapon, you're getting 25% projectile damage reduction. So if you get hit with arrows and you're holding block, they're not going to hurt that bad. And the last perk is Barricade. While in defensive stance, gain 75 armor rating and 75 magic resist. So this is the same as I was saying with the ranger. Now, if you got casters coming at you, if you're holding block, you're getting way more armor rating and way more magic resistance. Pair that with this skill Spell Reflection. While blocking, gain the ability to reflect spells. The buff persists until triggered, lasting 5 seconds, and then before activation, gain 15% magical damage reduction. So with this 75 magic resistance, and then you're getting another 15% magic damage reduction on top of that when you block, and then it lasts for 5 seconds. So if the caster casts several spells quickly, it's going to reflect the spells back to them. And this works for like, magic missiles, curse of pain, fireball, anything that gets cast at you, you reflect it and it casts back and hits the caster. I had a deal earlier where I was fighting a warlock and he kept casting stuff on me, and I reflected like 3 or 4 of them, and he eventually killed himself because of it. The next skill is Taunt. Increases the aggro value to all monsters within a 7.5 meter area by 300%. So you're going to aggro a ton of mobs, but you gain 12% physical damage reduction and 12% magical damage reduction for 8 seconds. So you can pop this in a fight, and if there are mobs around, obviously they're going to swarm to you and they'll be aggroed, but if you kite them, that's just something else in the way of the fight. It could help you, but it could also hurt you. So keep in mind, if you pop this with a bunch of mobs in the area, they're going to come out of nowhere. So if you're on like a multi-layer floor or something in the goblin caves especially, I've had centipedes come out of nowhere because you aggro them from above. But this does give you more physical damage reduction and magic damage reduction in the fight. So I typically pop it, as soon as I'm close to somebody. And for the spell reflection, you can cast this and put it on your weapon as soon as you get into the raid, and as soon as every time the cooldown is over. It stays active until it casts, until it's actually triggered. So after it's triggered, the cooldown will start over, and then once it's over, you just trigger it again. You'll notice your weapon or your shield, whatever you plan on blocking with, will be like glowing blue when it's active. And that's it for the perks and skills. Next, we'll go over the squire gear. So for this build, there's 2 main ways you can do it. You can go sword and shield, or you could go something like longsword. If you're really good at parrying and getting reposts, the longsword is a better option. I'm currently not the best with the longsword, so I rock sword and shield, but the longsword is a great option, especially with the repost. If you do run the long sword, you could opt not to take the crossbow and just have the sword and shield as a backup in case you get in situations where the shield would be a better option. For our gear, I'm using the Crusader helm, the fine cuirass, light gauntlets, plate pants, and plate boots. And then for utilities, we go bandage, campfire, potion of healing, potion of protection, and then Francesca's for a little bit of range. This build is super slow. Your move speed is going to be slow. Your action speed is probably going to be a little slow, but your armor rating and your physical damage reduction, projectile damage reduction, and even magic resistance is pretty high. Most of these pieces of gear have either projectile damage reduction or magic resistance built in, so it's just helping against every other class. I have had a problem with fighters that still use second wind. So if you run up against another PDR fighter that has second wind, it's kind of tricky. You either need to tank them and kill them really quick, or you need to make sure your blocks are on point. I ain't gonna lie, I've been killed by a lot of other PDR fighters that use second wind, but any other class, as long as you let them push you because you're not gonna catch them, you'll be fine. You can block enough arrows to make a ranger get impatient, and then any caster, you're pretty much just tanking all of their magic and you can W key them. Let's go over our damage numbers here. So with no weapon in our hand, we get 18% headshot damage reduction, 20.3% projectile damage reduction, and 52.4% PDR with no weapon. If we pull our weapon out without blocking, we get 53.9 physical damage reduction and 20.3 projectile damage reduction and 14% magic resist. If you hold block, you're getting 38% magic resistance, 58% physical damage reduction, and 35% projectile damage reduction. Freaking idiot.
A few moments later.
It didn't get me down to half health. That's so good. Got him.
A few moments later.
Stupid player column's got a lot of health, man. Too good at using a shield, but nothing else. Dude was good at using a shield.